Hello, my name is Hassan Sorrells. This is Tom Living,
Hey, everybody.
and you are listening to the GrowthCraft Podcast, Season 2. The GrowthCraft Podcast is designed with the startup founder in mind. This show is designed to and is committed to growing your connections with our GrowthCraft advisors, increasing your engagement with the GrowthCraft community, and to growing your knowledge about all of the benefits that GrowthCraft can provide for your project and for you as a startup founder. We can't wait to bring you along on our journey today. Now, here on the podcast, we interview startup founders, advisors, and others who are involved with GrowthCraft about their journey, their process, their path, and how they got from here to there. And I'd like to welcome to the podcast today Priyanka Nathani of EvoNatura. How you doing, Priyanka?
I'm sorry. Hey, son, your question cut out. This is my bad. I think my internet is not capturing. The, just one second. Let me see if I can move to another.
Sure. We'll go ahead and pause right. How are you doing today, Priyanka? How's it going? All right, Priyanka. For our listeners, what is it that you do exactly? Oh, I think Priyanka froze. All right, take two. Priyanka, for our listeners, what is it that you do exactly?
Great. Well, thank you so much, Hey, son and Tom. I'm so grateful to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to share more about my startup journey. I'm Priyanka. I have co-founded a startup called EvoNatura. We are a Pawtucket, Rhode Island-based company that puts microbes inside of materials. And our goal is to enhance material and plastic degradation at the end of its life cycle. Our ultimate goal is to prevent plastic pollution, and we work with manufacturers to do that. And essentially, we've innovated a new way to encapsulate microbes, which is protect them with a heat-resistant shell, and then we place those additives inside of plastic materials. They're dormant throughout the product life cycle, so nothing is changed within the plastic except the end of life. So the goal here is to essentially ensure that plastic can degrade safely and fast in ambient environments. And so we've been working on our R&D on that.
So I'm gonna fight the resistance to ask you a question about the science because I don't know. I don't think I don't think we need to go down that pathway on this because I really am interested and curious about the science part of this. But rather, what I'd rather ask you and to get a little bit more detailed on is like, so what was what caused this for you? Like, what happened in your life, Priyanka, that said, I just don't want any more plastic in landfills, or I want to get plastic to actually biodegrade instead of sitting in the earth for the next million years, or whatever it is that ends up happening. So what was the catalyst for you in this? Like what prompted you to say, I want to solve this problem?
Yeah, absolutely. So our story as a company goes way back to 2002. We're actually a legacy business. I've co-founded EvoNatura with my mother and co-founder Alka. She's our CFO and manages all of our scale-up plans and commercialization. But I learned a couple of years ago from through her that my grandfather in 2002 he was an advocate general in India, which is equivalent to being an attorney general of a state. And so he had a really high position in law. And he was governing a state in India called Uttarakhand. And in 2002, he banned plastics across the region. That was way ahead of his time and way ahead of what now we're seeing in terms of plastic bans across countries. And it was single-use plastic. So it wasn't like your, general day-to-day products. It was things where we were seeing a spike in tourism in India. And our beautiful natural reserves, lakes, mountains were getting polluted. And so, as one of the individuals and influential people, as the governing body, went together and said that we will no longer be using single-use plastic. Now, 20 years later, I'm just graduated from college. I'm learning more about innovation, biomimicry, materials, and I'm realizing that plastic is part of our day-to-day. Every single one of us use it. I'm sure that you've used some kind of plastic material today. And we know that it's one of the single most important items in our lives, and it plays a really great role. But the end of life of these materials have, a few scenarios. Maybe it ends up in recycling, but likely it will end up in some kind of landfill, or our environment, soil or marine. And so the truth is only 9% of plastic has been recycled. And when I've learned statistics like this, I know that we can't rely on our traditional streams for managing waste. And then knowing this challenge that we have with these materials, as well as my grandfather's legacy, I came together with my mom. We were innovating new materials. I had set up this little home lab. It was a DIY science lab, and I started to create new materials. And that's where we came up with the concept of why not take microbes that are already plastic eating, that play such an important role in our environment, and put them inside of materials? Now, you can't just put a microbe directly inside plastic. You need to shield it, and you need to trigger the microbe to start to eat the material at the right time. So that's the research that we're working on at the moment. But really, this business has become so much larger than ourselves, and it's a homage to my grandfather, as well as to the environment.
Now, all of that is amazing. And as I usually say, at least once on this show, once an episode. I'm a poor humanities major. I wasn't good enough to go into science. I wasn't good enough at the maths. So when you say things to me like plastic eating microbes, that's extremely fascinating to me because I didn't even
Mhm.
think there was such a thing. Um, so I guess the question is, why is a plastic eating microbe the best answer to this problem? What have you determined in your research without giving away anything proprietary, just at a sort of a generalized understanding level, something we could all get off of Chat GPT, right? Why is a
Yeah.
plastic eating microbe the best solution to the presence of, as you put it here, end of life materials that their presence in landfills and just spoiling.
I got your question, but just in case you want, if I just summarize it, because you did cut out. I don't know if you'll probably be able to snip this up a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay. Yep.
Okay, great.
So
So
I'll ask the question again. Why are these plastic microbes the best solution? There we go.
yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, right now, waste management streams are relying on industrial facilities, like of your recycling facilities, and you have industrial composting facilities, which that's where bioplastics go, like your biodegradable plastics, the green ones that you see in your grocery stores. But the big challenge is that those materials outside of an industrial environment really struggle to degrade. And that's because they're engineered that way. They're meant to last, they're meant to be durable and convenient. And the big challenge is that if a material is left in the environment, which more often than not it is, it can take years to degrade materials, hundreds of years. And over that course of time, scientists around the world have discovered microbes that essentially have evolved to eat plastic. And that's because microbes will eat anything that is in its environment. It will evolve. The enzymes within the microbe will evolve to digest what is available to it as food. And so there's several species globally that have been identified to have enzymes that can digest the polymer chains of plastic and break it down into its simple, original organic forms. And so it's really exciting to see that nature already has a solution to the plastics problem. But right now, microbes degrading materials from the outside in, that's essentially like, environmental, like a plastic is left in the environment and a microbe tries to digest it. It can take a really long time. But there's some amazing research that has been published that it's still effective. So we thought to ourselves, why not take those microbes and put them directly inside of the plastic? Make them a part of the essential DNA of the plastic. And the reason why that's better, and compared to other companies out there that are working in a similar domain of additives for degradation, our material with our additive can ensure a more guaranteed complete degradation as compared to others that are relying on attracting microbes in the environment versus having them readily available. And then also the microbes that we're using are specifically tied to degrade that type of plastic versus others that aren't there. So, this is novel research. It's fairly nascent as an entire market, but we're very hopeful that we can find a good solution, and we're really reliant on great partners too. We don't feel we're going to be the only ones to create something that can make a game-changing impact on the environment. But we feel that through partnership, we can bring something really innovative.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit about, so this is not something we typically like to ask questions around like how a consumer interacts with the product or how a consumer uses the product. In your case, it like nothing changes for a consumer, right? So I'll ask the question in a little bit different way. How are you going to convince an entire ecosystem of plastics producing companies that
Yeah.
this is the way to go? Or like, are you worried about other competitive things happening where that they don't pay attention to you because they're already doing something they think is better? Like, I'm trying to figure out how to formulate this question, but I think you're getting the idea. It's like
Yes.
I think you have a Herculean like effort in front of you.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? What are you thinking? Like, how are you gonna overcome that Herculean effort?
Yeah, right. I mean, the plastic supply chain is fairly simple to follow. It's not something too complex. There's a person, or well, I should say, an entity that makes the additives that then get blended with the resins. The resins then get converted into plastic products that then get sold to companies that then get sold to you and me. So it's like a fairly linear supply chain. You know exactly where you fit in, and we are the ones that are very early on at the resin stage. We sell to the people and the companies that essentially convert plastic so that corporations and consumers like you and me can then use that plastic on our day to day. But when we go ahead and discard the material, the end of life will be totally different than what it would have been otherwise. Essentially, at we're going where the wind is taking us in terms of regulation, and the real need for truly sustainable materials. I think the industry is waking up to greenwashing, and it's what worked no longer works, and we need to find new ways to kind of, expand what we thought was possible for sustainable materials or alternative materials. And additives like ours help to open new markets for manufacturers. When a material which previously wasn't degradable, is now degradable, it opens up a new space for the manufacturer to say, I have this novel new innovation that can, do X, Y, Z as compared to others. So we help manufacturers get competitive in an industry that often doesn't innovate as much. It's a traditional industrial industry. And it's cost sensitive too. Manufacturing plastic, we're talking pennies, can impact the entire supply chain. So yeah, it's Herculean in that for sure. But there's regulations out there that are pushing against the norm for the industry. There's regulations around plastics bans, EPR laws, extended producer responsibility laws, as well as mandates globally that are saying that we need to curb production as well as we need to put fines where materials are, not ending up in recycling or they're not truly recycled or they're not being composted. So I think there's a lot of effort to make materials more sustainable, and we're excited to be part of that ecosystem.
So when we talk about just for just a second to go back to I'm glad you gave the explanation there about sort of where you fit in the ecosystem. As the consumer, right, who was experiencing this, I eat something that's in a plastic container. I may reuse the plastic container a couple times, and then, quite frankly, I'm going to put it in a recycling bin, and then I don't think about it again, right?
Yeah.
Now, I realize that all recycling is not recycled. I do realize that state and local laws, particularly in the United States, and forget globally, but particularly in the United States, are kind of all over the map about that. I understand all that. As a consumer, right, who utilizes plastics, does the presence of these microbes have any impact on me whatsoever?
Yeah, great question. So the microbes that we're using are actually GRAS, FDA approved. So GRAS means generally recognized as safe. That means that they've been studied, they are recognized nationally, internationally as non-harmful organisms. They're non-pathogenic. And essentially, these microbes have just evolved to have digestive enzymes that can eat plastic. They're similar to the microbes that are used in probiotics, the ones that you find in your yogurts. So that doesn't mean that the same microbe that is in your yogurt is going to eat through you or it's going to eat through your yogurt container. But it means that those, when in contact with plastic for a long time and when exposed to the right conditions with the right nutrients, can have that effect. And that's what we're doing is essentially engineering the encapsulation shell, which is the thing that holds the microbe, to then release it and use the plastic as a nutrient. As the consumer, if you don't put the plastic in recycling, if it's a material that often isn't recycled and it ends up in most likely a landfill, and food containers are a really good example because oftentimes they're contaminated. It's very hard to recycle food plastic products because they're often contaminated and it's just much easier to landfill them or burn them. And so um, that's one application we're really looking forward to integrating the technology in. We're also looking at highly single-use products. So typically, we wouldn't necessarily be too concerned with products that can be used multiple times. And so our additive is not functional for every type of plastic and every application. But for initial studies that we're doing on a pilot scale, we're looking at certain types of film that can be used in food applications. So it would be exciting to see those results that are going to be coming up in the next couple months, and we're excited to share with the world what kind of research we find on how well we can degrade and accelerate degradation. But these are early stages of how we can take a technology from a lab like a benchtop scale up to a pilot and then so forth. And before you know it, as consumers, you'll be using plastics with our technology in it.
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I
Mhm.
think it's fantastic. I love the idea. I love the concept. I think it's amazing work that you're doing. And if we can get if we can get plastics to be in landfills for less time, I'm all for it. So
Yeah.
put it in any plastic product I use. I'm happy with that. But anyway, to turn the corner here a little bit, Priyanka, because we're gonna wrap up in a few minutes because these episodes don't we're not super long on these episodes, but
Yeah.
I would be remiss not to ask you about GrowthCraft, considering that's why we're here
Yeah.
today. So, if you could just give our audience a little bit of insights as to like what attracted you to GrowthCraft in the first place, and what do you find the most valuable as being part of that community?
Yeah, absolutely. So about a year ago, exactly, I think it was last April, we just did a Google search, me and my co-founder, and we had come across some kind of pitch event online. Didn't think much of it. We were like, okay, let's apply for it. I don't even think that we knew what GrowthCraft was at that time, as well as any of the other sponsors. And we went ahead and applied for this like 1 day pitch. And we were selected as part of like the pitch team and got I think it was like a 3 minute slot to give this like quick pitch. And mind you, like a year ago, we were super early and we still are, but we were super early in like even how to pitch something like this, how to grab people's attention and so forth. We did that pitch, didn't think anything of it, was just a great experience. And we learned a lot about, what it's like to be part of a community. And a couple weeks later, we get a notice that we were selected to join a investor event at Fenway Park, sponsored by GrowthCraft. And I think Vitali's bank, I'm forgetting what's the name of his
It was
bank?
Leader Bank, yeah,
Leader
correct.
Bank. Perfect. Yeah. And so we go to this event and we're surrounded by, really high level investors, mentors, and individuals from the industry, and mainly in the Boston ecosystem. And that was something that we're really looking to break into because being a Rhode Island company, the ecosystem for biotech is much smaller and resources are limited. So, since that experience last year, it's been overwhelmingly positive for us working with the GrowthCraft team, getting mentorship and guidance from different leaders and experts, all the way from like how to pitch to financial advice, financial projections, IP, SBIR, and so forth. We've learned so much from this small but mighty community. And it's been so great being part of an ecosystem of like-minded individuals. And we're just so grateful for this, what was seemingly arbitrary at the moment, this, application, who knew where things were going to go. And it just opened so many doors for us. So we're very grateful to the GrowthCraft leadership, and things like this are just, it speaks volumes for the kind of community that you're building. So, so happy to be a part of that.
Awesome. I got no more questions,
Awesome.
Hassan. I think I'm good.
I Yeah, I think you've covered I think you covered the entire waterfront there, Priyanka. For those of us who might be looking to find out more about EvoNatura, who might find you online, maybe going to be following you or wanting to find out more about what you're doing in this space of plastic eating microbes, as I sort of frame this for the layman among us. Why don't you tell us where we can find you and where we can follow you around and maybe give us a couple of ways to get in touch with you.
Yeah, amazing. So it's evonatura.com is our website where you could check us out. It's got information about how to contact us as well. Follow us on LinkedIn. That's our main platform that we're posting updates. And our big call is we're asking for individuals with connections in plastics and plastics manufacturing to get in touch with us. Our main goal is to continue doing pilot testing, and we're putting a call out there. If you know somebody remotely part of the materials or plastic space, please send them our way because we're always looking for building our network. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and it was a pleasure to speak with both of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
With any
Thank you.
consolation, as a last word for me, Hassan, I will tell you,
Yes.
I do follow Priyanka on LinkedIn, and I will, to anybody listening, she's very active, very informative, very educational. Like there's a lot of really, really good stuff that she posts on LinkedIn. So I do recommend either you follow Priyanka or I don't know if the company has a page yet, but if it doesn't,
Yeah,
then at least follow Priyanka. You'll get a lot of information based around this topic. It's very, very helpful.
awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we will have links to Priyanka's LinkedIn profile, as well as all of the different places where you can find EvoNatura and follow everything that they are doing in this space with her startup. Once again, we'd like to thank Priyanka for coming on the GrowthCraft podcast today. And with that, well, we're out.
Thank you.